Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallah to everyone who's showed up and taken the time out of their schedule to join us today. My name is Noman Hassan. I am a resident physician and working with the National Talim Department. I am privileged and humbled to be your host tonight. By the grace of Allah, under the direct guidance of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Ayyadullah Ta'ala bin Nasr Aziz, the Canadian National Talim Department is making small strides in terms of encouraging, motivating, and guiding our future generations to a path, a career in which they can serve the humanity and Jamaat. In light of this, the Talim Department has planned a series of webinars to motivate and to guide the next generation. And as such, we're excited to have a wide range of panelists amongst us today who have joined us to discuss how we can pursue engineering and its multiple subspecialties that even I have never heard of. But as we begin our program, as customary, we shall begin the program with the recitation of the Holy Quran. At this time, I request Mehsan Javed Sahib to please recite selected verses of the Holy Quran and its translation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الذي خلق سبع سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير. I shall not present the English translation of the verses just recited. These are verses from Surah Al-Mulk. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. I start in the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful, who has created the seven heavens in order, one above the other. Thou canst now discover a flaw in the creation of the Gracious One. Then look again. Seest thou any disparity? Look again, and yet again. Thy sight will return to thee frustrated and fatigued. Zakur.
Jazakallah, Mehsan Bhai. Our agenda, as was shown before we started the program, consists of a panel discussion that we'll start with, and then followed by a question-answer session where we ask our audience to please type their questions. It could be as anonymous or within the question-answer section on their screens in the Zoom webinar meeting. And we will, inshallah, try our level best to address them as we go along the program. Before we get into introduction of our panelists, we will start with a short extract from the sayings of the Hazrat Muslim Maud, where he said, "Therefore, our youth should also pay attention to machines. Allah has put blessings in machines today. Whoever knows how to work on machines can go anywhere and make a living. Today, all benefits are dependent on machines, and without them, no nation can progress. Keeping that in mind, we are excited to have a panel that's consists of leaders from within the Jamaat who have gone on to become professionals indeed in engineering itself. Instead of introducing them myself, I'm going to ask each panelist today to introduce themselves. And I would request all the panelists to keep their answers brief as we start with our first question for the night. And the first question is very simple. Tell us about yourself. What made you go into engineering, and how are you serving your profession in today, and how are you serving the Jamaat? I would like to, it's a big loaded question, but I think it gives a good adequate introduction to our audience today. For that, I would like to request Kamran Ashraf Chaudhry Sahab to please address this question.
Jazakumullah, Mansab, thanks for the opportunity. My name is Kamran Ashraf Chaudhry, and I'm by profession electrical engineer. I have done master's in electrical engineering. I did my engineering in 1990 from University of Engineering and Technology, Lahore, and then did my master's in 94. I started with career with working in the power field. My specialty is the power engineering, power electrical engineering, which has with the grid stations and power generation systems and standby systems. So it's a vast field. So I worked in Pakistan for about 10 years, 15 years. Then I worked in Dubai with Emirates Telecommunication for about 8 years. Then I moved to Canada and worked for Bell Canada for 18 years. And now I'm working with the WSP as EV charging design lead and installation lead, as the cities have the need of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So working with cities across Canada that to develop their infrastructure and make EV charging infrastructure ready. So that's my quick introduction. Why I choose my career, as the reason was that I was good in math, and I was pro to be a doctor, and I fought a lot. But my dad, who was my mentor, he taught me. He was my a mentor for math, biology, physics. So he said, no, you have potential of math. You should choose engineering. Then I went with his choice, and that proved well. So I have no clue about the biology, but I was good in math, good in physics. And then second thing, which for the youngsters, is that you should have the problem solving skills. If you have a very good problem solving skill, then you are a good engineer. So that was my motivation. And then serving Jamaat, since my student in university, I was engaged with IEEE in Pakistan as a student member. I worked on different projects in Rabwa, in Lahore. Since then, my passion was serving Jamaat, and I learned a lot from Jamaat projects. Here in Canada, I'm serving as a chairman IEEE Canada, and Jamaat has given me a lot of opportunity where I could add in. And when Hazur came in 2012, Hazur mentioned that we should have standby emergency systems in Jamaat major buildings. So Alhamdulillah, I had an opportunity to design all standby power systems. And we can see now in Tahir Hall, in Baitul Islam, in Calgary Mosque, in Saskatoon Mosque, in Brampton Mosque, and Regina Mosque. So we have all major buildings hooked up with emergency power. And I was blessed that I got the opportunity, and we did it in-house. We did it volunteer work. So give an example, the Tahir Hall project was $400,000, but we did it within IEEE platform in $275,000. So that was our contribution. So there's a lot of potential. Hazur specifically has mentioned in our 2019 IEEE meeting that bring in youngsters on board so that the youngsters, like we learn in a young age from our seniors, so youngsters can learn, and then as a day two, they can add in. So that is my small introduction and contribution path, which I have shared with you. So hopefully if there is any question, I will be glad to answer that.
Jazakallah, Karman sir, mashallah. Jazakallah for joining us today. We appreciate your time and Mashallah, you've been all over the world with the
Yeah,
and gained
alhamdulillah.
knowledge and experience from everywhere. So, mashallah, may Allah Ta'ala allow you to serve the
Thank you.
Jamaat and motivate the younger generation to continue the same path.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next, I would like to kindly request Malik Anwar Saab, who is a civil engineer, to please introduce themselves and answer the questions that we mentioned before.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. First of all, just to introduce that, I was a classmate with Chairman Saab, Kamran Ashraf Saab. Assalamu alaikum. From the school time in the secondary school, we call it college over there, but grade 12. And then University of Engineering, Lahore, Pakistan. I did my engineering in 1990 as a civil engineer. I served in an autonomous body of Pakistan, WAPDA, Water and Power Development Authority, for 10 years. And came to, well, actually, I had a very good experience in different projects in WAPDA because WAPDA had different projects, different nature of projects. So I came to Canada in 2000 and I started as a technician, a civil engineer technician. And I worked there for like a few months and then I was laid off because of the winter. Then I got a chance to work in a telecommunication company as a programmer. I had some understanding of programming. So in Visual Basic Database, I worked for 6 years in there, but I still felt as an alien because this was not my field. So I went for a master's in Concordia, Montreal. I did my master's there. And then I worked in Nova Scotia, I worked in Hamilton, and ended up in Ottawa in 2010. And I worked for another company for like until 2015. And since then, I'm working on my own for my own company. Alhamdulillah, I got opportunity to work for Jamaat projects. When I was in Nova Scotia, my first project I did was the Jamaica Mosque. My uncle Malik Abdul Rashid Malik, he was leading that project, and it was very challenging at that time because I did not have much resources in Nova Scotia. I was printing out on a small printer and then scaling out things how they are and then designing. But anyways, this was a very good experience as a like a practical application. But then after that, since I'm in Ottawa, there are many opportunities that we got. We have mosques here. We made so many alterations in that. In Markaz, right now I'm working with the Jaidat department as well. So Alhamdulillah, there are a lot of opportunities. And for a youngster, I would say, being an engineer, I feel proud, I feel comfortable, and I feel respected. Trust me, engineering is a field, is a regularized, is a license. You have to be licensed, and when you are licensed, all the regularized professions, they are looked at as agent to the government. So like your doctor's note works everywhere, you're sick, really sick. So when you stamp on something, the government accepts that is problem is there. So they don't want to come down there. And if you have something signed off with a stamp on it, they will listen to it. They will agree to it. So I feel I feel respected. I feel it gives you good living as well, because usually youngsters think, so would it be really giving you enough money to make your living? I think it gives you reasonable living. But for my understanding, it's respectable in society as well. What else? I don't know if this question comes, I might have more things to share. So for now, I will stop there.
Jazakallah, Nasab. That's you have said a lot in those few minutes. Quite a breadth of knowledge and experience under your belt. I think the only place you haven't been into is Western Canada, which is quite beautiful itself. We'll carry on the conversation. Next, I would like to request Moiz Ahmed Sahib, who's an electrical engineer out of Saskatchewan, to please introduce and answer the questions that we requested.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. My name is Moiz Ahmed. I'm a relatively newer engineer. Yeah, I graduated in 2019 with my bachelor's in electrical engineering. And then I worked for a couple of years actually in data science, not in engineering, just because I saw the opportunity. And then as I was working, I also thought, why not get another degree in computer science? So I actually have a dual degree in electrical engineering, computer science. And after I finished that degree, I then came towards engineering. And currently I'm working as an applications engineer for Siemens EDA, where we work with the analog designers who essentially the people who are making the technology today. So Apple, Google, Microsoft, anyone who's making technology, we work with those designers. The reason I went into engineering, again, just echoing off Kamran Sahib, I was good in math. I was good in physics. I liked puzzles and problem solving, so it was just a natural fit for me to go into this field. And currently, so as an engineer, one of the ways I serve Jamaat is many people associated electrical with audio video. So I had the opportunity to serve as Secretary Sami Wabasti for many years here in Saskatoon. And when the new mosque was built, I was also working as part of getting the audio speakers installation over there. But apart from that, in various other capacities as well. So that's a brief introduction about myself.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah Mujbai. It's actually quite humbling to see that we have really experienced people from engineering, and then we have younger ones who are just still in training. So Jazakallah for everyone for joining. Next, I will request Misan Javed Sahib, who's a mechanical and aerospace engineer out of Ontario. Please introduce, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Jazakallah for giving us the opportunity. My name is Mehshan Javed. I have a bachelor's in aerospace engineering and a master's in mechanical engineering, which I did from McGill University in Montreal. I'll jump right onto the question, why did I go in engineering to begin with? I was very young. I think I was 12 years old when I asked my sister, like, what should I do? And she asked me, what are you good at? So I told her I'm good at math and problem solving and all these things that my fellow engineers have said. And she said something that I have actually never heard of at that time. She said, why don't you become an aerospace engineer? I honestly, that was the first time in my life I had heard the word aerospace. I had no idea what aerospace engineering entails, no idea where it's offered and this kind of stuff. But I believe I was 10 or 11, but at that time I had set my eyes on aerospace. As I grew older, I kind of knew a little bit more about it. It's related to aircraft, aerodynamics, fluid dynamics, thermodynamics. Eventually ended up being in the field, loved it. Then in my specialization from McGill University, in a similar field, but slightly different. I worked in Pratt & Whitney, Canada, Flowserve, currently working at Richardson International. So worked in aerospace, heavy mechanical, pumps, oil and gas. Now in food industry, run a food production plant in Oakville. Been in project management for a long time. I've completed over 150 million worth of projects in my professional career, and this is something I'm really good at. And a lot of that comes from the background in problem solving. So just one cent for new engineers or people who are aspiring to become engineers. Engineering is a mindset, I believe. You learn a lot. In school, you learn a lot about a lot of things. But you never become a subject matter expert per se by the time you graduate. It's when you start your professional life, then you really get to see a whole array of fields where you can be. So anyone who feels and thinks that their math is prerequisite, whichever engineering you do, typically math is applied a lot, and your ability to problem solve. In Jamaat, since I have strong background in project management, I try to help out in as many projects as possible. For example, building a mosque, helping with some electrical upgrades in the mosque or that kind of stuff. not working dedicatedly on one specific project. There is a mosque being built in Milton. I was a part of the mosque committee. So inshallah, when it is going to be built soon, I'll be a part of that design as well.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah Masan Bhai. It seems like the theme that we're building so far is what do you call is math and and knowing how to solve problems. So inshallah, we'll keep working on the themes that we're creating for the night. Next, I'd like to request Mirza Tahir Ahmed Sahib, who's a computer engineer and who's also done a PhD and has spent quite a bit of time in research. So Tahir Bhai, if you don't mind, please introducing and telling us about your journey thus far.
Jazakallah for inviting in this forum. I'm glad to be part of this engineering group and very happy to see that the introductions of other engineers. My background, I actually started with computer science, and in fact, I started computer science under the instruction of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Rabi, Rahimahullah Ta'ala. I wrote him a letter and a request for guidance that Hazur, which field I should get into. And Hazur guided me that you should do computer science. So I started there my journey, and during my undergrad in Pakistan, I got to know that Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Khamis, may Allah be his helper, had a wish that there should be 100 PhDs. So that was the time when it started that, okay, I should be part of it. Hazur wished this, and if I can do, I should be in this one. I don't know I will be able to do it or not, but I should at least sail back. So, and I would say that rest of the journey is just blessings. I got scholarships to do my master's, one in Thailand. I did another master's in Spain that was in informatics. And then I got a scholarship to come to Canada for studies doing PhD in computer and electrical engineering. So that was the motivation, as well as getting into engineering. Mathematics and problem solving is a prerequisite. I think all of the engineers talk about it. So there is no to this part. You have to be good in these areas to get into engineering. So, and now currently I'm working as a research scientist in Epson. During this and last 6 years, I'm in Epson now. By the grace of Allah, during this period, I'm able to have 10 conference and peer-reviewed journal publications and 6 patents under my belt. And things are going forward. One thing which I have noticed is not related to engineering, but with every field of studies or everything, in fact, for the life as well. Attention to details is something that I have learned that you have attention to details, you will get to solve the problems and you will explore new venues. So that is what I feel like. Now, serving Jamaat, one of the major area of my studies and my work is automation. I work right now with robotics and artificial intelligence, data science, computer vision, and all these things are like combined together, deep learning. So when I get a chance to work with Jamaat, I try to make the process automated as much as possible. And you can see Dr. Tasif Saab having a smile on his face. So we work together, and in Khudam al-MD as well, try to make sure that whatever assigned to us, we made it as easy as possible. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, Tahir Bhai. In fact, I've seen some of your skills while working with you, and to be honest, I in my opinion, you're the Excel guru, but I'm sure you're a guru of many things, an expert of many things, and blessing, mashallah. And the fact that you settled back to the 100 PhD and you were able to actually do it and gain the blessings of that scheme, may Allah allow us to lead, take your life as an example and apply that to our own lives and lead that towards self-reformation and look at the beautiful blessings in what Hazur says to us and when we accomplish it in real life. Jazakallah Tahir Bhai for sharing your story. Next, I would request Abdul Nasir Khar Sahib, who's an engineering student, to tell us about himself and why he chose engineering.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Thank you so much for giving me that opportunity to talk about my degree and myself. So I'm Abdul Nasir and I'm in my final year of civil engineering. I'm doing my civil engineering from York University. Beside my undergraduate studies, I'm also doing a research on a topic is how climate change is affecting our infrastructure. So initially the scope of the research was just the Toronto base. Now, alhamdulillah, we expanded it all over the Canada. And alhamdulillah, I wrote one paper for American Society for Civil Engineering as well. And I have done 2 conferences related to my research. And what made me to go into engineering is, again, math was the thing I was really, not, I wouldn't say really good at, but better than the rest of the courses. Biology, I never liked it. So I was like, okay, engineering is the field in which I want to go. So initially I started off with electrical engineering. I was like, okay, I'm going to go in electrical engineering. But then I realized that, okay, you have to do so much coding and stuff, and like less math, but more coding and algorithm buildings. And I was like, okay, what other options I have? And then I went to England, and then I met Hazur, and Hazur told me, okay, we need civil engineers in Jamaat. And then that was like the first time I was like, okay, civil engineering is the field to consider. And then when I came back, I did 1 year in electrical engineering, but then I switched to civil engineering. And yeah, thank you.
Jazakallah, Nasir, for sharing your story. Just to keep up with time, I will now request Safir Ahmed Saab, who's an automotive engineering student, to please share his story as to why he is where he is today.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Safir Ahmed. I'm an undergraduate student at Ontario Tech University in Oshawa. I'm doing my bachelor's degree in automotive engineering, which is one of a kind and unique field of engineering in Canada. And the reason I decided to pursue engineering is that ever since I was young, I was always into cars and loved everything related to cars. I also took auto mechanic courses in high school, which gave boost to my interest in cars. Also, the interest in cars has been in my family, my brothers and cousins, and that's how the interest came into me as well. And I followed one of my cousins who is also an automotive engineer, and seeing his success after graduation inspired me. And I also decided to go into this field. Jazakallah.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah, Safir Bhai, for your time and for being here today. I actually want to go back to Kamran Sahib just with a quick follow-up on the question that one of the things that you mentioned earlier, given that you're the chair of IAEE and with your vast experience across the world. The question that we have is for engineers who have graduated or are engineers and working in their professions, how can this serve the Jamaat and be part of the ongoing projects that there are?
Jazakumullah, Nawaz sir, yes, it's a very great question. As I mentioned in my career path, that when I was a student, I kept myself engaged with the engineering platform within Jamaat, and it was two-way traffic that I learned a lot, and also at the young age contributed with your young energy, with new technologies, with new passion and new ways to solve the problems. So we have a platform, IEEE, and all engineers, I encourage even the students and engineers to register with us. Its website is www.ieee.com. It's a simple process, and they can join us. Student membership is free, and then they become in the distribution list. So far, we have around 250 members of IEEE, and we help in all projects. I'll give you a recent example of Jamia new building. When we bought it, there was a lot of work to be done, especially making the drawings. As that was an old building, there were no drawings, and I'm thankful to Malik Anwar Saab, and we had 4 fresh engineers, one Lajna member engineer from Montreal. She did her engineering from Mauritius, and she offered her services. She was very good on CAD. She converted all PDF documents, drawings in the CAD version, which helped us going to the city and applying for new extension on the Jamia. So this way, the youngsters can come up, and I can see the faces. There's be a lot of young potential students. And a couple of years back, we have also started a IEEE scholarship that all students who are doing good in engineering, we give schools. We have offered 2 scholarships. One is in civil and one is in electrical engineering last year. So this way, we are trying to motivate youngsters. And I tell you, when I applied for my licensing here in Canada, and I was referred to as an experienced professional, one of the project which I gave as my reference was, as I went for Waqf Arzi from IAAA platform to Gambia. Azure sent the team from Canada in 2007, and we installed solar systems in 13 villages in Gambia, where we did all those trainings for the local resources who can do the battery maintenance and do day-to-day job. And that helped me also when I presented that case, like my project, and with the blessings and prayers, I got certified as a professional engineer. So it's a two-way work. As a youngster, you have energy, you have mindset, new ways and means to work. So join us at IAAE.com. It's a simple 2 minutes the application form you can fill in. We have life membership, which is $100 a year, but for those professionals who are in field, who are working. But for students, as I mentioned, is free. We last month we have webinar with One Energy entrepreneur introductor Mujib Ijaz Saab. So we have a lot of learning process, and then we can come and contribute to Jamaat activities. So please join IAAE. We have seminars, we have sessions, then we do the networking with each other. Any new professional who comes to Canada, let's say he's a chemical engineer, mechanical engineer, civil engineer. So I and our executive body connect them with the experts in those fields. So they help them for the jobs, for interviews, and also we engage, as I mentioned, resources for the Jamaat projects also.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah Kamran Sahab. I actually didn't know myself that there was a scholarship from IAAE. In fact, we should tell our youngsters who are right now in university to seek more information. I'm assuming the information is on the website, or?
Yeah, it is through the Talim department. So the scholarship is all advertised through Talim department. Talim department does all application and evaluation process. Then it comes to us. So if the civil engineers, we have civil engineers forum to evaluate that. If an electrical engineer, we do this. So we have plans to add more scholarships as we go. So it's a chance. It's a small token of appreciation, but it's a good way to get on board and have introduction with experts in those fields, and experts can then lead, and we learn a lot from the young professionals, as I mentioned, that the new technologies, new means of work that coming in, and like learning never stops. Even I have 30 years of my experience in career, but still today I feel that I'm student in the new technologies and keep learning. My daughter is electrical engineer, so I keep myself learn from her also. So she's my mentor in teaching me. So
MashaAllah. As a professional myself, I know that the feeling of being a student is lifelong. You're always learning something, and that's how the brain grows. In fact, that's what Jamaat advocates and Islam in teaching principle advocates for the same thing. Jazakallah Kamran for sharing that with us. Inshallah, we'll discuss that further in detail. But I just want to switch gears a little bit. And I want to ask a question to Ms. Anbai. Ms. Anbai, for someone who graduates from university with an engineering degree, what is the next step? How do they get into the field? What can they do after that is the big question.
That's a great question. I would even go one step back to when you're actually in the school. So I think the key to finding or landing a good job in the desired field, in the desired industry, is making connections. So my suggestion to all the students who are in engineering programs is, when you're in the university, when you do your co-op, even outside of co-op, try to find as many connections as possible. The job market, the jobs are there, but you don't want to just find or land any job. You want to land the job that you actually love doing and you're passionate about. And the only way you can do it is by going out and about, being social about it. So LinkedIn is a great source. You should research when you are in the last couple of years. I think all the students should research what's out there, what are the industries, what are the different applications of their education that they're studying in the university. And before they even graduate, they should have a fairly good idea as to which which technology they want to pursue. Obviously, when they graduate, join IEEE. That's a great platform to be around all the engineers in Jamaat. Be a part of the AMSA. There's a great resource there. And once you graduate, again, yes, applying to the job is a very cumbersome process. But if you have the right connections, you can approach hiring managers, engineers, just approach them and introduce yourself. You're passionate about something. Oftentimes, a connection leads to a good job. So if you're just asking me in the context of how to find a job, I think jobs can be found directly by being in contact with as many people as possible. When you graduate, the next step also, again, I guess it goes back to before you graduate, you need to decide whether you want to pursue research. And there are different paths to doing research. For example, a master's leading to a PhD. And in that case, again, contacts are very important. You need to develop enough contacts in your university with professors and research associates so that before you graduate, all those things are already lined up. If you graduate and then you start deciding where you want to go from there, you're going to find your path, but there is a small possibility that you might get a little bit frustrated that, okay, well, I know I graduate, what do I do from there? So the planning starts a few months before, but the key is just make as many connections as possible. Numan, does that answer your question?
Yes, no, I think that addresses the question. I think you highlight a good point, is that when you're in your university degree, when you're in your undergraduate, you got to start thinking about what you're going to do next, whether that's research or going to job market. That's where you want to start building your connections with people in the field and with different companies, and see what job market can you get into right away. It's a good segue. I'm glad you mentioned research, because we have Tahir, who's done a PhD. So Tahir, if you can address the question on what kind of opportunities are there for engineering students to pursue research, and how that could be beneficial.
Yeah, Jazakallah. So I just want to touch a little bit on the previous question as well. One of the area which I think is not well discussed in specifically in our Canadian society is that we should think of having our own startup. These engineers, when they gain experience in industry for 5-6 years, you get so many ideas that where are the lacking part, where you can contribute, where are the gaps in existing technology or industry. So you can think of starting your own startup. And Hazrat Muslim Maud has emphasized enough on this part that we should think of having our own businesses. So now I will come back to the question of research. So one of the major thing is that when you are in your undergrad, you have to, as we all talked about mathematics and problem solving, research is also a domain where there should be a specific mindset required. So you need to think critically, you need to think that what are the gaps and how these gaps can be mitigated. So if you have that kind of mentality and you see critically think, then you need to think, okay, how can I pursue my career in research? Now, how to get into research is something that starts when you are planning your master's degree. So in engineering, we have two kinds of master's degrees. One is course-based and the other is research-based. So you need to get into research-based masters and think that which area you want to pursue or dig deeper in research. Now, there are research programs in almost all of the universities here, and they provide scholarship for research, because in second year of your master's degree in research, mostly professors want you to work in their lab. They will give you a research project, you will work for them, and they will give you a grant for that. Now, to get into PhD, again, there are certain requirements. One of the major requirement is that you have some kind of, and that's not prerequisite. That is the best case, you can say, recommended thing, that if you have publications done in your master's, professors are already inclined that this person know how to publish a paper, and he will be helpful in publishing stuff to the society and contributing to the field. So my personal experience to get into PhD was just contacting professors in the domain, in the area where I was doing my master's, and I was feeling that there is a similarity between the research area or field interest of the professor. And it was just a personal connection, as Mishan Bhai mentioned before, that I contacted professors personally, met them and told them that this is what I did. Here is one of my publications. You don't have many publications in masters. So you have one publication, even then it's enough, or your master thesis is good enough sometime if it is in the direct domain of the professor, because they are expert in their area. They will look at the title, read the abstract, they will understand how what caliber you have, and they will put you in. There is no other requirement from them. They just want to see that you are good enough to do research. And PhD, though, I have noticed that it's fully funded here. So if you get into universities, they will pay you money and you do your studies, and that's, though the stipend is not as we get the salaries, but at least you are not doing part-time job and doing your research. So it's full-time labor.
I think the stipend gets you by. I did a master's in biology myself, and I remember it just got me by. But Jazakallah, Taibai, for sharing your experience, and hopefully we can all follow your footsteps in terms of pursuing research, because I find it's one of the most difficult things to do, and yet rewarding at the same time of its impact. I'm just going to move on to the next question, which is more of a debate rather than anything else. But I'm going to ask Moise to answer this question. What is, in your opinion, the most promising engineering specialty at this moment in time?
I think this is a very opinionated question because it'll differ from person to person. Because my background is in electrical and computer science, I'm sure everyone here has heard of the ChatGPT, the data science, the AI revolution that's happening. Personally, because I actually worked in that field for a couple of years, I think, that's the next big thing that's happening. And that's what's driving, essentially everything that we're looking at right now. I think, and there's not a day that goes by that where even the layperson is not using that, whether you're using your iPhone, Siri, when you type something on Google, it's auto-completing the rest of the thing for you. These are all practical applications of artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, and so on and so forth. And it's just getting better from here. If anyone hasn't used ChatGPT, definitely use it. When it first came out, Majlis Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya also sent out the national essay writing competition, and I put that topic in ChatGPT, and I had an essay right there. So I'm not going to submit it, but it's the power of that tool. It's so powerful, and there's so many ideas and applications that you can do with that. What I was doing in my previous job when I was working as a data scientist is I was working in a mining industry. So we were using this technology to produce more potash for the world. And everything that was happening in the world with Russia and Ukraine and all that, Russia was a huge supplier of potash that just got shut down. So it was up to Canada to produce more potash. And that's where these problems come up, and this technology helps you solve these problems. How can you ramp up production? How can you optimize the way your machines and your mills are made so that you can get more output versus input? So in my opinion, I think, machine learning AI is the next big thing.
Certainly, I think most of people over here would agree with that. In fact, it's so impressive that our National Secretary Talim Sahab has been sending us poems written in Urdu by ChatGPT, which is impressive. So if anyone hasn't checked it out, please do. I'm going to ask Anwar Malik Sahib, but please, what's your opinion on what the most upcoming engineering field is? I know we got a youngster answering the question, but I just want to ask you quick and concise, please.
Jazakallah for asking this. This is again same comment. It's a very tricky question to answer. My personal feeling, I have worked closely with electrical, mechanical, and myself civil. And I feel that to be an entrepreneur, mechanical would be the best way to go, because the HVAC systems in the buildings keep changing. And I can give you an example that the people who were mechanical and they started their own business, like the time when I started, they are many times bigger than what a civil engineer can be. They have many employees and the bigger size. So if you ask me from like a general, these common engineerings, I would say mechanical is the best. But otherwise, I mean, everyone knows aeronautical, space engineering. They are big things. I'm not very aware of that, but we look up to them always.
Fair enough. I think that's reasonable. And it actually is a good segue into the next question that I have is, what is the Jamaat need at this in time? Maybe Anwar Saab or Karman Saab, maybe you guys can both, or one of you guys can answer this question, giving your experience in that you have worked in Jamaat on various projects.
Yeah, Jazakallah Masab. Yes, Jamaat needs are, as Malik sir mentioned, there are three major categories: where structure, mechanical, electrical, and mechanical HVAC comes. These are the three major needs so far. As Jamaat is looking for the projects, retrofit projects, rebuild projects, or the new projects. So these are the major fields where Jamaat needs that. And as Moisa mentioned, that it all depends on what is your liking in the field. But like I will tell in electrical engineering, there are a lot of fields. So all the youngsters or those students who are pursuing engineering, electrical engineering, they should go for that field. That these days, YouTube and all these things have changed the market. Sometimes we put a lot of time in engineering, money, 4 years, but like electricians are doing the work which used to be the part of the electrical engineers. As the reason why I'm saying that the drawings are there online. They can, yes, when the stamping is required, then they are forced to go to the engineer. But when the preliminary calculations are there are a lot of calculating tools. So all youngsters should go to those fields where these shortcut people who does 1 year in trade or something, they cannot they cannot get work out of their field. So like data analysis, software analysis, software engineering. So electrical engineering or any civil engineering, where you have your strong hold on that. That is very important when you come in the professional field. That is not like one size fit all. So you have to be very current in the market. What are the trends? Where we can have edge and ownership on our field. So the customers, people, companies need us. For Jamaat, as I mentioned, the three major fields are there, but we have in IT field, all those software and computer engineering needs are there. Those are specialty for the IT needs. And Jamaat, we have a lot of work going on the apps, on softwares, but for the projects, these three are the major. And as Malik sir mentioned, structure and mechanical, these are the top ones which we need that.
Jazakallah Karman Saab for that. I think that answers the question. We'll, given in respect of time, we'll move on.
Saab, if you also took my name as well, I want to pitch in.
Yes,
my
please.
sense. So I would say that we still have some gaps and we need more help in planning, especially in planning the projects. Planning is a certain area where we need to know, can this project be done on this land? It's just not like you make rectangles and you say my building will be here. So you have to think a lot other things that are we interfering with the drainage of the area? Are we really is this zone for this? Can we put this building there? So these kind of things are planning. You need a certain number of parkings there. So that area we still feel that we need more input, more help. The other side is the architectural side. We feel that we need more expertise there. Being engineer, we can do a limited contribution in architectural details. As a civil engineer, I have learned some, but still we feel there is a room there for where people can contribute.
Thanks, Malik sir. Sorry, Noman sir. Architecture, I missed out that is a major area where we are lacking. As Hazur has mentioned in 2 meetings with IEEE, we have architects. We have very experienced architects on board with us, but they are not licensed. And whenever we have to go for any final stamping design we don't have. Now when I motivated the youngsters, I have one Lajna member who is pursuing architecture. One young student is doing architecture. So whoever is pursuing the career in engineering, and so architecture is very on high demand, especially for our projects. We do have architects who design, do everything, make the conceptual drawings, but then we are dependent on the other companies. We take our conceptual drawings there, and they charge us the work, major work our architects do, but then when any stamping and anything comes up, they earn from us. So Hazur has specifically mentioned that we need to produce architects, licensed architects.
Jazakallah khairan, sir, for sharing that with us. It is my request to all to our audience, if you know anyone who is pursuing engineering or is interested in going engineering, to please consider architect engineering if that is possible. We'll move on. Just want to quickly, because we have a lot of questions coming up, and I want to tell, I request my audience that if you have any questions, to please put them, type them into the Q&A question and answers chat, and then we'll inshallah address them soon. We just have 2 more questions and we'll get into answering the questions. I want to ask one of the students, either Abdul Nasir Saab or Safir Bhai, what does a day in life of engineering student look like for you guys?
Okay,
So
I can go.
Sure. Okay, Nasir Bhai has volunteered. Jazakallah.
Oh yeah. So for engineering, according to the Professional Engineer Ontario, I'm pretty sure it's same for every single province. We have to finish 148 credits minimum. So that means we're thinking about taking per semester 6 courses, 3 credits each course. So, and each course contains the midterm exams, the assignments, and the final exam. It really depends on the level of the course. So the engineering intended to finish it in 4 years, and you have to finish 148 credits plus the complementary credits on top of that, like according to the university requirements. So we cannot delay our assignments. Okay, my assignment is due on Sunday, so it's a Saturday problem. No, you should start working whenever the professor or your instructor assigned you the assignment. Same with the midterms and stuff, because we usually do not get time to prepare for the midterms and finals. As soon as you approach the end of the semester, you have like so many deadlines piles up. Most of the time in engineering, after like first year is a common year. So first year is like kind of easy, but the transition from a high school to a university is kind of hard because you're taking very few courses annual basis in your school, but in university you have 4 months to finish like 6 courses. So you have to make like a proper timetable, and you have to group study is a really good thing. So you come up with ideas, you do brainstorming, you do brainwriting and stuff, clear your concepts. And like you are not supposed to memorize the stuff because mostly technical, so you have to learn the concepts, and then you get the question in your exams and assignments according to your concepts. And secondly, I would say it is doable. It is doable in 4 years, but I recommend that if someone really wanna like get high grades and keep their GPA high, they can prolong the engineering to 5 years, and they can take their summers off. But if you are not, but you can also take courses in summers, but it's kind of hard on to do like 6 courses per semester, but it literally affects your GPA, which is really important in engineering, because if your GPA is below the certain level, you are not qualified for the honors degree. It was just like a B-Eng degree. So the assignments, projects usually group projects, and it's for the whole term. So you have to start working every day. And I would say if it's a 3 credit course, and one important thing is right now we like all the Canadian universities, they are affiliated with the Washington with the Paris Accord, in which we have the course learning outcomes. So now before the start of the semester, in every single course, the professor gives you the course learning outcome page, in which they mention, okay, test 1 contains how many course learning outcomes. So it is a really good idea. You have to go there. Okay, test 1 contains CLO number 1, the course learning outcome number 1 and 3. So there is no need to spend time on course learning outcome number 2. So this is how you can manage in terms of your midterms and exam, which actually contains the huge chunk of your grades. And the assignments are usually whatever you done on a weekly basis, you have to submit that in the end of the week. And so,
So what you're saying is basically you have to work hard,
yeah, for sure.
have discipline, be able to multitask, and respect time so the time respects you.
Exactly.
All right. Inshallah. I think if you can get all of those, you can succeed in anything you want in life for the most part.
And my most important thing, pray, write letter to Hazur, and inshallah,
For sure.
that's doable. Yeah.
Write a letter to Hazur before every difficult thing you do in life.
For sure.
I know Misan Bhai, I was looking at your name and it says MENG and PNG, and I have no idea what that means. Do you mind telling our audience what what that means and what professional engineering groups are in Canada?
Sure. So MEng means Master in Engineering, PEng means Professional Engineer. There are certain designations in different provinces across the country. For example, here in the province of Ontario, we have EIT, which is engineering training. So typically when you graduate from your university, you start your engineering career, you need to register with Professional Engineers of Ontario, PEO, and they give you a designation EIT, where you complete certain number of years of experience. So experience along with the educational qualification, you need to write them your experience. And then based on that, you can graduate to a PEng. There are other provinces, for example, in the prairies and in the western provinces, they also have an engineering title around, I believe, geosciences, like geology, because they need a lot of research around the land and how the crops are grown and what have you. So basically, PEng is a designation that is respected across the country. If you are PEng in one province, you can easily convert that into other province if you decide to go there and live there and practice engineering over there. You do not have to write exams. Typically, PEng in Ontario comes minimum after 4 years of experience, and your experience need to be directly related to engineering. It's very hardcore, but it's very rewarding, because after you have the designation, you can stamp drawings. For example, if you're an architect, as Kamran Saab was alluding to, you can stamp drawings, and similarly for mechanical designs, there are schematics that you can make, and then other people can draft, and then you can review the design and you can stamp it. It comes with a lot of responsibility as well. You can't just stamp anything, because, for example, if you're stamping a design of a bridge and the design is flawed, and God forbid the bridge fails, or any other structure for that sake, the ultimate goal, the burden is on the engineer itself who stamped the drawing. So it comes with a lot of responsibility, but the process is there. It starts with finishing an engineering degree, being an engineer in training, complete certain number of years, and then graduating to a PEng program. Just on a quick note, once you do have PEng, it is respected across industries, which basically the Professional Engineers of Ontario, for example, they are stamping that you're a qualified engineer, you have practiced engineering in your field, you're capable enough for stamping drawing. So when you in industry and look for a job, for example, you are at a benefit compared to other candidates. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits to getting these designations.
Jazakallah. I'm going to move on to my next question. I'm going to ask Tahir if you can put the presentation back on. Next question, I want maybe Safir Bhai would be better, or Moiz Bhai, to answer this question. If someone comes and says that I'm a high school student, how do I get into engineering program?
So the high school requirement for every university is slightly different in every province. But I'll be presenting the Ontario one, and I would like to request Moiz Saab to present Alberta and other provinces. So in Ontario, basically what you need is a high school diploma, and you need 6 4U courses, which means you need 6 grade 12 university level courses. And those are English, chemistry, physics, advanced functions, calculus, and vectors, and one additional 4U or 4M course, which could be from humanities field or liberal studies. And the grades also vary with university. Every university has different requirements. So I would say typically it is between 90% to 80%. So, and no course grade should be below 70%. And Moisab, if you can talk about Alberta and British Columbia.
Jazakallah. So generally overall across Canada, you know, when you finishing high school, you want to go to engineering. Almost all the background, you know, across Canada has to be the same. You need to have mathematics, and it's not just any type of mathematics. It's you need to have calculus under your belt, because calculus is then carried on in your university courses. You go into multivariate calculus and vector calculus and other stuff. So having that fundamental calculus course completed. Chemistry is also at the grade 12 level is very important, because many universities have a general first year, meaning that all the engineers come first year, they do your first year, and then after that you go into your disciplines that you apply to: electrical, mechanical, civil. Again, with physics as well, you need to have a good understanding of your grade 12 level physics, grade 12 chemistry. And then also there's some other requirements of either some sort of English class or some other humanities class that they look into. Generally it is English, so make sure that you're not just focusing on your math and sciences, but also on your other courses. One thing that I will say is typically people have this misunderstanding that engineering is just math and science. A large part of engineering is communication. You can do the design, you can do the calculations, you can do the work, but if you can't communicate what you want to your audience, to your stakeholders, then you're not going to be a very effective engineer. So for those of those audience who are listening, please also make sure that you have some interest and skills in also writing and speaking and presenting, because that's also a big thing too. And then just want to mention, so please also focus on your grades too. The reason why that matters is because many universities, they have a set number of seats as to how many engineers they will take that year. So whether it's 300, 400, 500, whatever that is, you have to make sure that you're on the you know, on the one of the first people is being admitted. So 90+% is generally the idea. Usually somewhere around 85%, maybe 80% is where they start cutting off. Last month, I was talking to the head of electrical engineering at the University of Saskatchewan. So for computer and electrical engineering combined, they only have 120 seats, I think. So, you know, make sure that you are in your top of your class in high school, and you're getting good marks so that you can get your first preference in your field. Jazakallah.
I think the next few slides have been discussed. Taiba, if you can move forward.
Next.
This is discussed already.
This one, yes. Jazakallah. Achha, so top universities in Canada for engineering are so number one is University of Waterloo, which is located in Waterloo, Ontario, and second is University of Toronto, and third is University of British Columbia, and then University of Alberta, and fifth is McGill University, and sixth is Concordia University, which is in Quebec, and seventh is Ontario Tech University, which is in Oshawa, Ontario, and eighth is University de Montreal in Quebec, and ninth is University of Calgary in Alberta, and 10th is McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario. So this list, it changes. Pretty much every year you'll see this change. So for 2022, this is the latest one by usnews.com. And next slide. So some of the top universities for engineering province-wise. So Ontario, University of Waterloo is number one, University of Toronto is number two, which is in Toronto. And Ontario Tech University is in Oshawa, is number three. McMaster University is in Hamilton, and Western University in London, Ontario. And in Quebec City, the province of Quebec, McGill University is number one, which is in Montreal. Laval University in Quebec City, Concordia in Montreal, and Polytechnic School of Montreal is in Montreal as well. In Alberta, you have number one is the best university for engineering is University of Alberta, which is in Edmonton. And second is University of Calgary, which is in Calgary. In Saskatchewan, University of Saskatchewan is the top university for engineering. And Nova Scotia, Dalhousie University, which is located in Halifax, and Acadia University, which is in Wolfville, and St. Mary's University, which is in Halifax. In British Columbia, University of British Columbia, which is located in Vancouver, is the top university for engineering in British Columbia, and Simon Fraser University in Burnaby. And third is University of Victoria, which is in Victoria. Next slide. So program-wise, so University of Waterloo has, so if you want to do mechanical engineering, University of Waterloo is the best university to do that from, and electrical as well. And if you want to do civil engineering, University of British Columbia is the best university in Canada. And if you want to do mechatronics or software and computer science, University of Toronto is the best university to do that from. And if you want to do automotive engineering, Ontario Tech University, which is located in Oshawa, Ontario, is the best university to do that from. Also, this is the only university in Canada that has this automotive engineering program. Next slide.
Yeah, I can take over this one,
Exactly.
For the salary ranges. So a question that often comes up is, how much am I going to make as an engineer? So this, I have to say off the bat, it highly depends on what type of engineer you are, the number of years of experience, which industry you're working in. And there's many factors that go into it. But if you want to get a general idea as to, what I should be expecting, each province they have, as we mentioned, each province has a governing body for the engineering profession. So in Ontario, there's Professional Engineers Ontario, and every year they release a salary survey that tells you, breaks down by industry, by number of years, by all these different stats about how much salary engineers are making across the province for that. So over here, what these means, on the bottom you see P1, P2. This means Professional 1, Professional 2. So these are just different types of designations as to how many years of experience the person may have. So P1 would be someone who's just out of school. They might be making $70,000. Again, this is not a hard number. This is just an idea of, a ballpark figure that you could do it. I've known people who are fresh out of school, they're making over $100,000 because they were working in a different industry or whatever industry. So typically when you come out of school, you should expect you're getting a decent salary, anywhere from 70 to 80, around that ballpark, on at least on a minimum. And then as the number of years go up, you'll be making more. It's very possible to cross $100,000 within a few years of working, and then going up and up after that. And if we go on the next slide, this is on the next slide, please. Yes, over here. This is another. This is from Apex, so from Saskatchewan. They've broken down, the salary by which discipline it is, and then how much people are making. So on the higher side, some people are making over $200,000 or a high $100,000. On the lower side, they're making this much, but the average for electrical, it's $116,000. The average for mechanical is $111,000. But again, this depends on which industry you're working in. If you're working in oil and gas, it could be different from tech. It could be different from energy, and so on and so forth, and which number of years. And there's many other factors that go into it. But the key takeaway is that you make good money. So I think we'll leave it at that.
Jazakallah Moiz bhai for answering that and enlightening us with how much one would make through engineering. We're going to move on to questions by our audience. We have quite a few questions that have come in. Some of them have been answered by Jazakallah for doing that. Saves a bit of our time. But I think one of the engineerings that we don't have today is chemical engineering. And one of the questions is, what is the scope of chemical engineering? So anyone wants to answer that question? Moiz bhai has raised his hand. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah. The reason I want to answer this question is because Western Canada and the prairies, we have many chemical engineer demand over here. just because we have a lot of natural resources. We have uranium, potash, oil and gas in Alberta, and whatnot. So in Western Canada, there is a huge demand for chemical engineering, and many of the top students actually go into chemical engineering because it's so competitive, and they only take the ones who have the highest marks. In chemical engineering, you do have a lot of good job opportunity over here, and then if you do want to, there's also international opportunities. If down in Texas or even in the UAE, they also have demand for that too. In terms of what you need to do to get into chemical engineering, you need to again, after your first year, you apply for it. There's a strong emphasis on chemistry, so you have to be really good in chemistry, understand how to do labs, how to do chemical reactions, and solving those reactions. So was that the question? Was there anything else about the question?
Yeah, I think the question was, what can you do with chemical engineering? I think you've answered that question with the mining industry and the need for that.
It's oil and gas, energy, mining, and then if you really want, there are other specializations. So going into petroleum engineering to really specialize in petroleum or other types of minerals and elements.
Okay, if we have, I know with given, I think engineering is a very vast field. It has many subspecialties, and I'm sure we don't have all of them today, but it is my request to the audience that if you have specific questions about a subspecialty that's not represented today, please do email us, and we will inshallah try our best to connect you with one of the professionals from that subspecialty within the Jamaat. If you can't find one within Jamaat, we'll try reaching out to find you some guidance on how to pursue that further. Another question open to the audience, just respecting time, if you can be concise in terms of answering. Question is how aerospace and automotive engineers can help Jamaat?
Can I answer that real quick? Specifically aerospace engineering, if it goes back to what we have all been talking about, that engineering is, I believe engineering is a mindset. It teaches you problem solving, it teaches you communication, confidence, and obviously mathematics. When we go deeper into mathematics, like it all boils down to how you solve problems. And when you graduate from school, when you go out in the industry, oftentimes what you learned really in mathematics, like you solve an equation, that you don't necessarily apply that equation directly in the real world. What you do is you get a real world problem, and then you think outside the box as to how to solve that problem. That is what engineering, any engineering degree teaches you. Obviously, if you do computer science, you get to learn a bit more about computers, electrical, and what have you. Going back to the question, how can aerospace engineer or mechanical engineers help Jamaat? I think if you work long enough, you're able to solve problems and work in project management. There's a lot of projects that are happening in Jamaat, as Kamran Saab has mentioned, that require planning, project management skills. So even though the fact that we are not making aircraft in Jamaat, you can still go out and help. One thing I would actually specifically like to mention, if you do aerospace engineering and you do go in aviation career, I know a few people, for example, they worked in Air Canada or WestJet or other industries for a while. There is a thing that there's a field in aviation where you're able to go. For example, there's airlines when they fly their aircraft, they hardly purchase them. They're all leased. Most of them are leased. So if you go in that, you understand that field. Maybe in the future when Jamaat grows and like we are flying our private jets, like you can get into that. Like the sky is the limit. And as far as mechanical engineering goes, obviously HVAC systems, you can, if you know how to design those, you can certainly help out Jamaat in designing HVAC, upgrading HVAC systems, high efficiency systems, heat pumps, all those things. You can apply a lot.
Hopefully, inshallah, we can have our own jets one day.
Inshallah.
Just fly from meetings from one province to the other, inshallah.
Sky's the limit.
Sky is the limit, absolutely. I think this is a great question, and maybe some of the senior engineers can also answer this question. What certification do you recommend for current graduate engineers that are working to keep up to date with technology and world and on like incoming or new technology in general? Any certifications that are there?
Yeah, the certifications, as Vashant have mentioned the sky is the limit, as it all depends where the trend is going. Especially we have seen in last 2 years of the COVID that a lot of new ventures have opened up. So the main thing is that in your field, remain concurrent, keep looking around, what are the needs, where the trends are going, and then those look for what certifications are. Sometimes it's not small certifications pay up back a lot, like certification which you can get in a month's period, 3 months period. And but the main thing is that be ahead of the curve and keep looking around that what is the trend going on, what is my taste, what is my interest in that, and get the certification on it. And I'll request Ms. Atara myself to please shed a light on this. And as I remember when I was discussing with him sometimes, and he has also appreciated and supported to go for entrepreneurship. So what are the areas where those all are fresh graduates? As entrepreneurship in North America is really an area, it's a niche area where we don't put much concentration. So Tarsab, if you can shed more light on that, that will be helpful.
Yeah, so I think if we talk, let me go towards the certification part. In every field, there are certifications, and you can look into your area. For instance, if I talk about deep learning and artificial intelligence, there are many steps that you can take to upgrade your knowledge, because technology is ever evolving. We see every other day there is a change. There is something new there. So to stay up to date, to stay connected, you need to either keep on learning these things or do some certifications that are advanced level. Now I will come back to the entrepreneurship side of it. We saw a slide of salaries of engineers. So there is, I was sitting with one of our ex-Naib Sadar Saab. I think Adnan Rabbani Saab, we all know him. So, in one of the sitting, he said something, and that's very interesting. He said, if you are in your comfort zone, then there is no progress. So you need to get out of your comfort zone. And when we saw these salaries, and if you're getting 190 a year, and you feel like, okay, everything is running fine, so it's all good, let's stay calm. So you will not think of entrepreneurship, because that's a totally different domain where you have to not only work as an engineer, but you have to look how to get that problem solved and get to the people. So it covers almost all of the spectrum of a business, basically. But as Mishan mentioned just a few minutes ago, sky is the limit. So if we are in our comfort zone, then we can see that limit from far. Or there is a sky. We are not actually progressing that into that step. We need to get out of our comfort zone, and there are opportunities there. They're waiting for you, which we have to try, which we should try. There are venture capitalists. There investors sitting there. You come up with your idea. You present it in the right way. I have noticed that in US, because there is a mentality. We see innovation coming from there. The entire city there in San Francisco, that Silicon Valley, there are people thinking in this direction, that come up with ideas, solve the problem, and this is what we have to do. I have noticed that USA Amore Tulba department recently had a seminar on how to start a tech, or how to become a tech billionaire or something like that. So something along these lines we need to learn. Opportunities are there, and as an engineer, we work in domain, in industry, and we see the gaps. And we need to think that how I can be the one who solve this problem and stand out as an entrepreneur.
Jazakallah, Dr. Saab, for that. I think that's a fantastic idea, and I think this goes to, it shows us that there's need for a platform that could be provided by at the Jamaat level or Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya level, where we can inculcate or encourage that kind of thought process. The next question I'll ask National Secretary Talim Saab, Dr. Tasif Khan Saab, please answer this question. There's a question where it says, most of the engineering programs are competitive. Is there any plan from National Talim Department to mentor, guide in application process like AIF? There's a concern that few people go, although they're talented, they don't get to achieve the full capacity of what they can achieve because they're not guided well.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah. This is a very good question. I think this a lot of students ask this, like, how can I be helped? And I think this program is not one-off. So all these engineers that we see here, Jazakallah for coming, will now be part of a career mentoring program for engineers. And we'll add more engineers to this list. So that will become an engineering career committee. And inshallah, every student, every individual, every Ahmadi who wants to go into engineering, wants mentorship, wants feedback on their application, wants some ideas of which engineering to choose, we will connect them to these people or any of the engineers who can mentor them. So inshallah, the plan is that every person who needs mentorship will be mentored, inshallah.
Inshallah. So that answers that question. There is a question of which engineering is the most holistic in its approach. I think we have had a detailed discussion of all the subspecialties. If anyone has a answer for this loaded question, they're welcome to join in.
NP hard.
It's a difficult. I think the fact that we have discussed all the subspecialties goes on to answering the question. So we'll move on to the other one. There's another good question where it says, what summer jobs or / volunteer opportunities are available to high school students so that they can decide early, or you can decide on an engineering pathway here?
Yes, I just want to highlight here that there are many opportunities that they can get. In fact, there are opportunities where they can go into these companies, tech companies especially. They give opportunities to young kids to come and join as an internee and get trained on things. I have noticed that even in my company, they invite high school students, and there on the tech side, software side, there are many opportunities. I am not sure about mechanical side, if other members can shed some light on this part. But in tech side, we have opportunities where we want kids to work. I recall one of our high school students did a project with our company just for his last year, that I want to do something in augmented reality or something in that area.
Okay. I think my advice to the audience, Dr. Kamran Saab, I don't know if you had something to say, please go ahead.
As Tessa mentioned, all those big companies, high-tech companies, they keep looking for the summer students, and it's very beneficial to work with them. As I have been in Bell for 18 years, in Bell Canada, there were a lot of opportunities for different types of faculties. So I encourage all students so that they, instead of wasting time in the summer, they look for these big companies, consulting companies. Like I'm working in WSP. These all companies keep looking for those youngsters who can come and do a summer student job, and this way they can have a networking with the professionals who are working in the field. So it will be good reference for them in future and while studying in the university. So all those companies advertise summer student opportunities on their website. So please keep looking on that. And if there is they find any summer student job in any company, please let us know at IEEE forum. We'll find the prime, if any working on those companies who can put a reference for them over there.
Jazakallah Kamran Saab. Moiz Saab, you had something to add?
Yeah, I wanted to add something that's kind of echoes off what that is, that many jobs companies do have summer student internships or opportunities, but many people apply to those. And how are you the one who gets the job? I think that's also something we should address as well. Many high schools, many universities, they have student groups, any clubs, any sort of club, whether it's a computer club, whether it's some sort of electrical club. In universities, there are teams, that they make cars, or over here in Saskatchewan, they have a space design team, they have a car design team, they have other teams. So many engineering students, they have a problem. Okay, I have a degree, but I don't have any work experience. How am I going to get a job now? Well, either you have to do personal projects, or you do a project as part of a team from university or high school. That on your resume, that is something that sets you apart from the next student who also has a degree, because everyone has the same skills, everyone has the same degree. Now it's what sets you apart from your competition, and that's something that you have to. I encourage all the students. I didn't do that. I had a hard time finding a job. I applied to over 100 companies. I can tell the audience this, and it was only through the blessings of Allah Ta'ala that I was able to get to where I am. But this is one of the ways to mitigate that circumstance. So that was my 2 cents.
I don't know if you would agree, but from my own experience, if you work with small offices within the Jamaat and you continue to do that from an early age, you tend to develop that CV that you can market when you stand out for certain leadership roles that you do within the Jamaat system when you apply. Certainly, I used that for medicine when I got in.
Definitely, yes. I actually use that I use the audio video example. You put that in my resume, and that actually helped me connect with one of the interviewers that did that. And actually bringing up Jamaat in the interview process actually helped me get the job, because he was on the board of his church, which is right across from the masjid. So I said, we're neighbors. I go to this mosque, you go to that church. So it just helped me develop that bond. So, always bringing it back to Jamaat always helps you in some way.
That is so true. Like I still remember I was giving my medicine interview at UFT, and my interviewer asked me specifically which community you belong to, and he knew the Jamaat. And I did not mention any names. I was just discussing my personal experience. He had some idea, and he asked me specifically, although you're not allowed to do that, but he did it. But Jamaat working for little activities that we do as part of Atfal al-Anbiya, Khudam al-Anbiya, Lajna Iman Allah, Nasrat, all those activities gives you experience, gives you skills that are applicable to world outside, and actually helps you stand out from the rest of the people. I have another really good question. How one can prepare himself to secure an admission into a good rank university? I know we talked about Waterloo being the best one. What are some things that our younger generation can do to get into, for instance, Waterloo?
Yeah, before my other panelist answers, who has experience with Canadian universities, my class fellow, my personal friend, he's a dean faculty of electrical engineering department in York University. So, and when my daughter started engineering, we were thinking of big universities, and he came to me. He said, Kamran, the people go for the big names. Engineering is not that you are studying in a big university. It's what you are. And then he mentioned that in York University, they have got new funds, new grants, new labs, new equipment, a lot of scholarships. And my daughter had scholarship for first 3 years, around $20,000, $25,000 in total. So we keep looking for the big names. It's you, how good engineer you are. The big university name will not give you much support. So that's my thing. That sometimes Urdu mein kehte hain ghar ki murgi dal barabar. The York University is near to us, and most of the students whom I meet, oh no, I go on to York University, I go on to that university, this university, where they put more expenses. So the best thing is that do research, choose the universities which have new lab equipment, new technologies, like Lausanne College has new equipment, everything. And I seen the list in our presentation. The York University was nowhere. So that is my personal experience with my own personal friend, who is my class fellow. He's Dean Faculty of Electrical Engineering in Lausanne. This is his comments, and I saw the benefit when I asked my daughter to go to York University. We saved a lot. We saved money in the boarding. She was going from home, coming back to home. So these are the things. So it's all research, and then get yourself connected to the people in that field. So that is sometimes we have these numbers from web and they do some research. Like simple thing, when my friend told that York University is not in good names, anything happens around York University, it put a back tag on the name. Oh, something happened in York University. So I personally felt that when you go to York University, it's a campus, you feel an engineering environment, you feel the people who are there. So please do some research, met the people in that field, and then make the decision. Don't go for the names which you will see in the web or something. Those things are based on certain surveys, but sometimes the ground realities are different than what we see in the media or the word of mouth. So that's my input on that.
Jazakallah Kamran bhai. I think you have a valid point. I agree that it all depends on what your personal motivation is.
Yes.
Right. But I think, we have, for instance, I went to University of Saskatchewan for medicine, but there's also Harvard Medical School. So there are Ivy League, there are people, other universities that are good at it. But one thing that, for instance, Waterloo or other universities that are highly ranked give you that and a lower rank may not be able to is connections.
Yes.
That is a big thing. There are companies that out there that would only accept a graduate from Harvard or a graduate from Waterloo. When you go to Waterloo, when you go for that bigger name, it opens up more opportunity.
Yes.
It does not mean that if you go to York, if you go to Saskatchewan for medicine, you're not gonna have a future, or you're not gonna get a good job. You're not gonna get a good paying job. That's not what it says. You'll still have opportunities. It all depends on what you make out of it. So I'm glad you brought that point up, because it was a hot debate yesterday amongst us as well. But it tells you that there is benefit. So from a Jamaat perspective, I'd say when you're gonna aim for the stars, and if you land on the moon or land on anywhere else, it's perfectly fine. Life goes on. You still have a bright future.
No, that's a key point. We are blessed that we have MDA platform across the globe. We have mentorship within our different like auxiliary organizations like IAAA, Doctors Association, Lawyers Association. So it's all you. As me and Malik Sahab graduated from a university. That's a top university, Asian university in Asia. But it is maybe the students from here don't know University of Engineering and Technology Lahore. So, but we competed across the globe. We stood out. I came to Canada with the contract from Bell Canada. So it's you who has to prove that it's not that I'm sitting on a big platform and I do nothing. No. Whatever we do, we should excel in that. And then we will see the results.
Absolutely. I'm going to go back to the question. Just so that we can answer for our audience, but I think that's a really good debate, and our audience gets a good idea of what we're talking about. So if Moiz bhai, can you answer as to how they can prepare themselves to go to or let's say, aim for higher objectives, and how they can prepare for that?
Definitely. So right off, so we already talked about the courses and that they need to have, aim for a high 90% average so that they can get into that university. Because again, the universities only have a limited number of seats, so they're only going to take, the cream of the crop, as they say, the top students who apply to the universities. Apart from that, the jump from high school to university, it's a big jump, because now teachers aren't going to be looking over your shoulders. They're not going to be helping you, holding your hand and taking you towards every, or how to solve every problem. You have to learn how to teach yourself. Learn how to learn. They're going to give you an assignment and they say it's due next week. Now it's up to you. Do I start my assignment today? Do I start tomorrow? Do I understand the material? That's all as a high school student. So what you have to do now is start managing your time in high school. You have to know, okay, now it's time to study. Now it's time for eating. Now it's time for Jamaat work. I'm going to sleep this many hours. I'm going to get up. From my personal experience, my first year, in the university, the way I managed my time is I woke up for Fajr. Then after Fajr, those 2, 3, 4 hours that everyone was sleeping or go back to sleep, and then it's just me. That was the best time that I had to study, because my brain was active. I was able to do my stuff. I wasn't hungry. I wasn't sleepy. I was just focusing on that, and that allowed me to have more time for other stuff and doing other things. One thing I wanted to add is many high school students may not be aware, but the Schulich scholarships in STEM, that is a very big thing across Canada. I didn't know it when I was in high school, and I was very angry when I found out that one of my best friends, he's a not MD, but he knew about it. He was nominated. Every high school in Canada can nominate one student who's graduating, and this is a very big scholarship. I think it's $100,000, $80,000, whatever the thing is, and then they award 100 scholarships each year. So there should be no reason why an MD high school student is not nominated for these. Every year we should have MD students who are Schulich, and then they actually come in the newspapers and they say, you know, so and so is the Schulich awarded this year. So if I knew it, you know, I would have asked, because your high school has to nominate you, and the only way they nominate you is you go and ask them to nominate you. Otherwise, you know, they have many good students. It's just the first one who comes and goes and says, I have good marks, nominate me, and I want this scholarship. So all my high school students who are in the audience, please find out about this scholarship. If we, I'll also type it in the chat somewhere. So please, if you're graduating this year, then please talk to your counselors, your high school, get your name nominated, and inshallah you will, you know, hopefully you get that $100,000 scholarship.
Jazakallah, Mujbai. Jazakallah. I think we're well over our time. We have answered most of our questions. The one we haven't answered, if anyone has a burning question that we haven't been able to answer, I request that you please email us at careers@talim.ca. I will head toward conclusion of the event. I'm grateful to our audience for being so engaged and sending us questions, and for our esteemed panel today. Jazakallah to each and every one of you to take time out. I know it's late at night, but we wanted to keep a time that was reasonable for the whole country from coast to coast to coast. And I think it's a reasonable time, but we should end it since it's almost past 9:30 at our time. Again, I want to remind our audience and the rest that you know, Talim department overall is doing, you know, is planning to hold monthly webinars on different pathways that we can guide or provide a platform to our young audience for guidance, for motivation. I hope this session has been motivational. Clearly it's been motivational for me to learn a few aspects of things, but you know, one thing that when it comes down to is hardworking, you know, and discipline. And you know, if you look at discipline, it is the key principle within Islam. It teaches you to discipline yourself for successful in your spiritual and worldly life. I think the next program is going to be on big data and artificial intelligence on February 16th, same time. We will inshallah share more details as we get closer to the date. If you have any questions, need mentorship, need guidance, have topics that we can do for you, has anything that we can serve our audience better, please do email us if you have feedback on what we did well and what we didn't do well and how we can improve this program. Please do email us, because without your input, we cannot improve. And you know, although we pray, please do also pray for us so that we get better in what we're doing, inshallah, and achieve our targets. And at this time, I'd like to request the Chief Concept, Dr. Sab, to please lead us into any final words you have, and silent prayers.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I would like to thank all the esteemed panel members who came, and some of them were only given very short notice. So Jazakallah for coming and be part of this panel to give career guidance to budding engineers. I would like to thank all the attendees who came and attended this, and I hope and pray that they benefited from this. And this program will also be uploaded on our Talim YouTube channel, inshallah. So anybody who missed it can watch it. In the end, and finally, this will be, inshallah, a monthly program where we will have, we'll deal with different careers every month. And finally, this esteemed panel will now become part of the career counseling committee. And any question regarding careers can be sent to career@taaleem.ca, and it will be forwarded or answered by one of the members more suited to that question, inshallah. I think that's what I want to say. I think we should do a silent prayer and then finish off. So
Okay.
please join me in silent prayer. Ameen. Jazakallah.
Jazakumullah khairan.